Next set of departments are primarily internal service departments, and in my view, they fit all of the board's 5 strategic priorities because they either directly support a priority or they support another county department that supports that priority. So we'll start with Human Resources. Evelyn Miner-Lawrence is the director. Please come forward, Evelyn, and go ahead when you're ready.
No, you had missed that part. You were out. We're just going to go through. Yeah. Good to see you again. Thanks for being here.
It's nice to see you as well. Good morning, Budget Committee members. I'm Evelyn Miner-Lawrence, Director of HR, and I have with me the brains of the HR department. So my 8 division heads, and I'll introduce those. I have with me Erin Knapp, who's over Administrative Services, Lee Nguyen, who's over Workforce Data Management, which is our data keeping process for all of our county employees. Eric Sarah, he's over the Employee and Labor Relations Division, as well as the Deputy Director of Human Resources. Heather Pedersen, our Class Comp Division Manager. Jarrett Haddock, who is a new member to the HR management team, and he oversees the Recruitment and Selection Division. Kim Lenore, who oversees the Workforce Planning and Development and our Organizational Development function for our workforce. Christy Durham, she is responsible for benefits, wellness, and leave administration within the county. And then Eric Machado, who is our risk and safety manager. So they are here with me today. And if I can't answer a question, then I will have them come up to the table so they can give you an in-depth insight to their operations. Okay? So I would like to ask you to turn your attention to tab 18.5, and that is the overall department's budget. So HR's department budget is 82 million plus. We have a total of 44 FTE in the department. Our department is divided by 3 funding sources. So our first funding source, which is the general fund, that's Fund 100, and that only incorporates the HR programs. So those programs that fall under HR General Fund 100 include the workforce data management, our administration functions, the employee and labor relations, class comp, recruitment and selection, and then workforce development and planning. The other funds, 2 other funds that we have is the Benefits Self-Insured Fund, that's Fund 760. That is not a general fund budget. And then the Risk Management Fund 761. The HR division, if you go down, take you down to the total line there under HR, our total budget is 5,487 plus, and it is made up of revenue from the allocations that are paid by departments, and approximately 1.3 million in the general fund support. It's reflected in the column, the yellow column there. The amount of general fund support reflects a 2.6 decrease from the prior year, and that's highlighted in the yellow at the bottom of the page. Revenues from these funds are made up, going down, looking at the benefits line, and our risk management. So if you look at the benefits budget, they're at 59+ million. And then risk is 17+ million. Those budgets are made up of revenue from premiums and allocated costs paid by departments and their services.
Evelyn, are you on page 18.5 still?
I'm on 18.5.
18.5. So could you, I didn't see the 59 million. I'm sorry.
Right down at the bottom of the page.
At the bottom,
Oh, okay, I was up at
Under
the, okay,
self-insurance
I was
fund.
going across from benefits under, seeing the 48 million, okay, thank you.
I got to slow down so I can point you where I'm going. Okay.
Yeah,
Let-
can I ask a quick question, too? I didn't see the 2% reduction that you had mentioned from general fund. I see an 8.6% reduction.
Okay.
At
So
the
if-
bottom of 18.5.
So at the bottom of 8, in the yellow highlight there, there is the, and you're going across
Yeah, but she said-
that,
Yeah, but I heard 2. I heard you say 2% reduction. Did I just hear that wrong?
I didn't, I think you may have heard that one.
I may have heard it wrong. Sorry
Okay.
about that. Thank you.
Okay. Can we go to tab 8-7? And this is our revenues and expenses. And I'm going to go down slowly across. So under the beginning balance, and then the next bolded category is operating revenue. Our operating revenue is made up of allocations paid by departments, insurance premiums, and small amount of the general fund support. The revenue has remained flat, as you can see, over the past 3 years, with a 3% decrease projected in the coming budget year. Moving down the page to operating expenses. Our operating expenses have also remained fairly flat over the past 3 years, a 9% decrease projected in the coming budget year. Moving down the page, the total expenses, the section that reads revenue for future expenditures. So we have reserves and contingencies are only found in the benefits and the budget and risks budget. And I will address those when I get to those pages. Let's move to tab 18.8. Moving down the column to our operating revenues, bringing your attention to the line titled fees, charges, fees, and licenses and assessments. Going across, looking at that, our allocation revenues are increasing by 8% over last year. And that's largely due to staffing, the cost of wages, benefits, et cetera. Okay. Looking under the, following the line across from the general fund support, our general fund support decreased by 9%, with the greatest impact to our professional services line. So our professional services line is where we contract out a lot of HR services. So our investigators for internal complaints, we are contracting to make business changes to apply with the equal pay law, that we are doing our contracting for negotiations comes out of that budget. Changes that need to be made in our recruitment and develop selection area as well. So that's primarily where those dollars are housed. The bottom line, there is an overall 3% increase in operating revenue. Moving down to the operating expenses, and we've looked at the professional services line. going across, and you can see that there is an increase of 7%. And as I said before, that increase is largely due to the staff, so the COLA increases in the cost of benefits. Under our materials and services, this is, we have a 8% decrease in materials and services reflected in our budget. Again, the bottom line, the overall increase is 3% in the operating expenses. I'm now moving to tab 18.9, and this is the revenue and expenses for the Self-Insured Fund, 760. This is where our benefits and leave administration and wellness program is housed. As you can see there, at the line going across from beginning balance, you see a 40% increase there. That is planned expenses for benefits service strategy project. And what I mean by that is we are in the process of contracting out part of our benefits administration to gain efficiencies within the benefits operations. The other that is driving that cost increase is the anticipated medical increases that were due to the pandemic. Okay. Moving down to the category operating revenue, and I'll bring your attention to the line fees, charges, fees, license permits, and et cetera. That's been pretty flat over the past 3 years. This was done intentionally. It was done to create some consistency for departments so that they wouldn't have the fluctuation in their budgets. I want to move down the page now to material and services. And you will notice that the budget is higher for fiscal year 21-22, and it's due to several factors, and I'll kind of highlight those for you. And I've said this before, but I'm reiterating it. We did anticipate that there would be medical increases due to COVID, so that was factored in there. We also budgeted $5.4 million in the claim margins, and this is the second year of that implementation. And because I'm not a benefits specialist, Christy can explain what a margin is, so if you have questions there. And then the third factor driving that is contracting out the transaction function of benefits administration. We will be contracting with a third party to deliver some of our benefits, such as contracting out our COBRA processing, a number of administrative things that we're looking at in order to gain some efficiencies on the staff. We're projecting our claim expenses line to be lower initially, as claims have not materialized as expected. And however, the average weekly claims expenses have increased over the last 2 months. So these are some of the factors that is driving that higher cost. And I'm sure you'll probably have questions, and I will have Christy come to the table. Moving down to the line that reads revenues for future expenditures. State mandates. So as you can see, there's revenues put aside for that at 21% increase. The state does mandate that we have a reserve amount to pay claims because we are self-insured. should our self-insured end. The reserves amounts are actually determined on an annual basis, and the increases are due to the cost of medical and dental and our disability claims that go up. There is a contingency line in the benefits fund, and I'll just kind of highlight what drives those dollars related to that contingency. The increases in reserves and claims margins amounts. We are, as I said, we are anticipating having part of our benefits operations administered by a third-party vendor. We anticipate that there will be added-on expenses because of the recent passage of the Oregon Paid Family Leave Act. And then there is a need to have a fund, of course, based on any changes that we might experience related to wellness and benefits. Okay. I'm going to move down to...
Evelyn, you've exceeded your presentation time, so can you please wrap up very quickly?
Okay. Tab 810. Please move down to the line titled Charges, Fees, and License. We're keeping the allocations flat for the next 3 years. This is Fund 761, which is risk and safety. We did increase the department allocations by 2.5% from last year due to the influence of inflation and other operational expenses. And then moving at the line of revenue sources, 71% decrease year over year, and that reflects transfers from budget salary expenses to West. So we did have a position that was housed in Human Resources, but it was paid by West. We had a solid line into HR, dotted line to West, and we've reversed that. Now that position has gone back to West for those services. I'll move quickly down to materials and services. Again, the claims that claims and insurance premiums make up the vast majority of the materials and services line. Our workers' comp claims expenses have increased, but we're still below the industry average. And then there's been a slight increase in tort claims expenses, but again, we're still below the industry avenue. So I will conclude my presentation.
Thank
Okay.
you. We have Commissioner Salas.
Yeah, thank you, Evelyn. I consider the work that your department does and your staff does is probably the most important work in the county, because without our staff and our employees and the work that you do to make sure all those things are covered is just invaluable. I mean, we can't do our work without our employees, and you help that entire system work. So
Thank you.
Kudos to all your staff, and great presentation. I followed everything, and I was going to ask a question about the carryovers. That's been explained when I add the contingencies to the reserve for future expenditures, so that adds up. So thank you for that. The breakdown's interesting. But I want to point out to my colleagues on the Budget Committee what I was trying to point out yesterday morning, which has nothing to do with your department, Evelyn, but this is a great example. And that is that the increase in personnel services that we're seeing, which is, sometimes in some of these are either really low or minus, and don't really reflect the actual cost. And it's been explained, I understand that, it's been explained that the unfilled positions here and there help backfill that. I think even Sarah's demonstration or other departments did that as well. And I guess in effect, what it really does is it kind of glosses over that increase in personnel services for the existing employees of all the departments. And there's absences, or not, but vacancies. Yeah, there's vacancies, and we are backfilling that with those vacancies. That's how we are making the budget sustainable. Okay? So if we were fully staffed, for example, and we didn't have any vacancies, we would probably see a greater reflection in that increase in the overhead for personnel services and costs and so forth, which is actually a kind of a high number. And so the work that I've done over the weekend was take some of these, look at the budget differently and take all of the personnel cost increases, the material and service increases, and look at it as a trajectory of how our budget's going to go in the year forward, in the years forward, 5-year forward. And so that's where I have a concern overall. We'll talk about it later today, I guess, and even tonight. That I just want to just point out that in these budget presentations, the way it's being presented, we really can't see that those increases in materials and services, and especially the personnel services in bulk, because it's not presented that way, and that's what kind of gives me a little bit of pause in the overall budget as far as making sure that we can get to where we need to get. I did listen last evening to at least a portion of the first meeting of the budget meeting last year. I think you'll find it quite enlightening in light of the discussion we had yesterday morning. But still have more I want to do, but I just want to point that out. And again, Evelyn, sorry for taking up the time on this one, but thank you. You did a great job.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Shaw?
Yes, good morning, Evelyn.
Good morning.
Human Resources. Question for you. On tab 18-7, operating expenditure, FY 22-23, 45 million and change from previous year, down 4.6 million or 9%. Evelyn, could you tell us again how you achieved that? Tab 18-7, operating expenditures, from previous year, down 4.6 million or 9%. You see where I'm at?
I think so.
Tab 18-7.
18 and
Okay. Operating expenditures.
Okay.
Right over here too. This, how did you achieve this reduction?
Oh, okay, thank you. All right. So, okay, then you answer. I'll have Christy Durham respond.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So a large amount of that is
Can you make sure the microphone's on? It's really difficult to hear you. You have a wonderfully soft voice, so.
That one's
It's
all.
the first I've heard that.
And speak directly, speak directly into the microphone, please. Thank you so
All right,
much.
you bet. So a large part of that is from unrealized claims. So we had anticipated an increase in medical claims, and that's all rolled up as part of that. So there are a number of things that factor in, and when you roll those all up across all of our different areas of business, that's where you're going to see that.
So we have a healthy crew. Is that right?
We have so far really had less claim utilization, but we are seeing that trend up, as Evelyn had mentioned.
Oh, I see.
It's gone
Okay.
up significantly. So it's just, we had anticipated, we wanted to make sure that there were enough dollars available.
Got it.
And that's where you're going to see a large part of that is from unrealized medical
Okay,
claims.
I understand. Okay, one more question for you, Evelyn. On tab 18-5, under the 22-23 self-insurance fund, 59 million and change. Now that comes from payments from the departments, right?
I'll go ahead and answer that. That is a combination of things. So it could be premiums from participants, department cost shares for those premiums, as well as retirees, COBRA beneficiaries. And then we have a benefits administration fee. So each department pays for each employee on a per employee per month basis that is benefit eligible. So that's where we get that some additional revenue.
And so you project 59 million in 22-23 in that fund?
Yeah. collectively. So that's taking into account claims, the entire operations for employee benefits.
Okay. And one last question on the Risk Management Claims Fund, 17 million. That comes from,
Eric?
sorry
I'll
to
ask
be,
Eric Machado to come.
I'm just trying to understand this. Okay, so, Eric, this is tab 18-5, Risk Management Claims Fund, 17.9 million. That money comes from where?
Eric Machado, Risk and Safety Manager here at Clackamas. Commissioner, that, it's actually a little easier if you look at tab 18.10. That's the breakdown of that fund. That gives that 17.9 million exact. What that is that's the full balance or full budget of the Risk Management Fund. And it's made up of the fund balance. So budgeted this year will be 12.6 million. Carryover fund balance, about 5.3 million in revenue expense. And then the reserves and contingencies make up the other 12-ish million of that, so the 12.6. And those reserves and contingencies are intended to pay for the future liabilities of the county. That reserve figure of 8.8 million is what our actuary tells us is the future liabilities for the county if we, starting on the end of this budget year, this next budget year, if we were to go fully insured at that point, that would be our runoff liabilities.
Okay, I'm sorry, I one more question on that, Eric. And that money comes from where?
Through allocations. So
Okay.
I allocate that, if you look at the revenue piece of that in the charges, fees, license line, 5.2 million, that's basically the allocated amount that is charged out to the county for this year.
To the departments.
To the departments, correct.
Okay, thank you, Eric.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure glad I don't work in HR.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Rhodes.
Good morning.
Morning.
Delightful to see you.
Nice seeing you too.
My question's about, you mentioned contracting out some of the benefit services. What does the rollout for that look like? When will that be fully implemented? And then how will it be reflected in perhaps efficiencies or savings in your budget?
Okay. And I'm going to ask Christy Durham to come back to the table to respond to the question.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. A couple of parts to that question. So the rollout is, we're already underway, so we've selected a vendor, and we expect to begin that work in early July is our anticipated implementation begin date. Depending on decisions that are made at the county, we will decide maybe that timeline might be delayed a little bit. Overall, it's about a 16-week process. That could go faster or that could be more delayed depending on decisions that are made. But the goal is that the rollout will begin as a soft rollout, so people who, it won't be in conjunction with an open enrollment where it's impacting everybody, but we would roll that out as people are benefit eligible, month over month, as they have qualifying status changes, and get that going so that by 2023, for open enrollment, we would be able to be fully onboarded. So that's
within this budgetary year,
at the
more or less.
Actually, at the beginning of the next
Just into the 23.
23, 24.
And can you talk to some of the efficiencies perhaps or savings that you'll realize from this?
Certainly. So one of the things that was driving this was around compliance, customer service, and efficiencies, ensuring that we've got some efficiencies. And because we have systems that have been in place for a long time, there's a lot of manual interactions and transactions that occur. And with that, the more of those that we have, the more we're able to introduce accidentally maybe some errors. And so some of the things that we're really looking at is having some of those efficiencies. That's just, improving. I don't want to go into too many details. I'm happy to share more information about this, but essentially really being able to deploy staff in more strategic ways so that we're able to be more effective partners to departments as they are looking at their budgets. What's the value proposition of these employee benefits? Are these the right benefits? Are they attracting and retaining the right folks at the county to deliver the work that we need to be to be delivering? Those are things that are all coming into play. And so when we're talking about cost efficiencies, one of the things that we looked at was, could we just internally reinvigorate the tools that we already have? And what we realized is that the dollars spent would be nominally cheaper. We would spend less if we were to basically repurpose what we've already got, but we would not be able to redeploy in those strategic initiatives. We just do not have that capacity to do both. So we're looking more at controlling those costs going forward and delivering more value for the benefits that we're offering.
Thank you very much.
Does that help?
That's excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. There are, Commissioner Fisher. I was going to say no other, but there she is. Okay.
Thank you, Chair Parks. So when I became a commissioner, I'm not sure if it was in your outcomes or county councils. I think it was in human resources, but regardless, doesn't really matter. There was a goal to reduce the number of grievances or litigation post-termination, and it was a difficult outcome to measure. And so over the years, this has evolved, and I see, and I really like this outcome in the results on page 18-3. It says 90% of corrective actions involving reprimands, suspensions, demotions, and employee terminations will have been vetted with E&LR, which is our employee and labor relations before imposition. And so my question is that for all staff, or is that for just staff that are part of our collective bargaining units?
It's for all county employees.
Okay, so that seems like a very good process, which I really, really like. So with that, are we, now that we're doing this intermediary step, are we tracking, and I know you talked a little bit about tort claims and the budgets around that. Are we tracking any improvements in any of these things? Reprimands, suspensions, demotions, and employee terminations that result in a grievance. Are we tracking those numbers?
So we're not tracking those numbers. Our first goal, trying to get before there's any disciplinary action done, that has been vetted with the employee and labor relations team. And it's to ensure that, that we're crossing our T's, that every single employee is getting their due process that they are entitled to, and that we're not just making knee-jerk decisions as it relates to suspending employees or terminating their employment. And so if we can get everybody filtering those decisions through HR, that will eventually have an impact on, we should see an impact there, a positive impact on reducing the number of tort claims that we get in litigation. But we haven't started that yet.
Okay, well, I'm very happy to see that in 2021, the actual was 100%, and there's an expected performance in 21-22 of 100%. So that is an excellent first step. And I would be curious, I don't know how we would measure it, but when we do start measuring that, I don't know if it's through the budget process or through, maybe it's an outcome with, I don't know, county council, us councils. He doesn't have control over that. I'd hate to put that control on our county council, so I don't think that would be appropriate. But I would like to see that measure, just those outcomes of those disciplines. I think it would be a good indicator that our processes are working, and reducing any form of grievance or litigation should always be a priority for us.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Seeing no other comments or cards, Evelyn, thank you very much. Always good to see you and hear your report from your excellent office. So